Hello, hello, and welcome again to another episode of the Craftsman Creative Podcast. I'm so glad you're here listening, whether I'm joining you on your walk or on your drive to or from work or doing the dishes. I appreciate your time and attention, and I hope you're getting value out of these chapters of my book, BLOCKBUSTER. It's been pretty fun to not only write them in public, but also record and share them in audio form in public, and to be talking about the publishing in public as well. So, today's chapter is actually a new section. So we finished up the initial welcome section, and we're now diving into the section on outcomes. So we've talked about mindset, and now we're talking about outcomes. So we need a little bit of a refresher. I talked about it briefly in the last section of the book, but in case you're jumping in right here because you're like, I'm all about outcomes and Darren's all about outcomes, I just want to jump right to that point. We need a little bit of context. Before we do that, special shout out to my friends over at lulu.com. If you are an author or an aspiring author, or you just think that authors are cool, head over to lulu.com. They have tons of resources, and they are my favorite people to work with when it comes to self-publishing and distributing my books. So I urge you to go check them out. They're wonderful people, and they've been incredible partners on this project, BLOCKBUSTER. All right, so here is our next section that we're going to be diving into over the next, 5 or 7, how many chapters do we have left? I can look. 4 chapters of this section, but this is a section heading or a section overview. So we're talking about outcomes today. You've reached the next subsection of the book. I'm glad to see you here and excited to walk you through the next bit, as I can attribute so much of my success to shifting this mindset around outcomes. The name for my business, Craftsman Creative, came from the book So Good They Can't Ignore You by Cal Newport. I read it initially in 2014 and again in 2017 when I left my production company to pursue a career as an independent film producer. Now, Cal compares the typical approach driven by a person's passion to what he named the craftsman mindset, an outcome-focused approach to creative work. In short, rather than figuring out what you love and then trying to find a way to become successful at it, you think about the outcome you want and then reverse engineer a direct path to it, and you start walking. To compare the difference between the passion approach and the outcome-focused craftsman approach, you don't need to look any further than my own career in film. I started producing by trying to raise money on the first script I co-wrote in 2008 and 2009. I failed miserably. So instead of figuring out a new approach, I assumed it was the product we'd made or the script we'd written. So we just wrote another script, and then another, and another, and another. Over the 9 years, my business partner and I wrote 5 screenplays and 2 TV pilots, but we never got any of them produced. Compare that to the craftsman approach I was reminded of in 2017. I had just left the production company and set out on my own, and So Good They Can't Ignore You was part of my nightly diet of books that were going to help me chart a new path. 2 months later, I was hired as a senior producer on the #1 rated show on BYU TV, Relative Race. During the 4 seasons I produced for them between 2018 and 2020, I was hired to produce a TV pilot, a documentary series, and finally, my first feature film. It took 12 years from 2009 to 2021 to produce a movie, but only 3 years since changing my approach, with a number of other successes along the path. The craftsman mindset not only helps you achieve the things you want in your life and business, it helps you achieve them faster. In this subsection of the book, we'll outline a step-by-step process for you to become outcome-focused as a leader and creator. You'll define the outcomes you want in your life and your business so that you can create a plan to achieve them. All right, I'm excited. I hope you're excited for the coming chapters about outcomes. Again, it's everything. Mindset and outcome-focused approach are 80% of the game for me. And since, the update of that book, and since I'm just, freestyling at this point, this isn't part of the book, but, I'm talking to you now, it's pretty amazing what's happened since 2021. So we did that movie in 2021. That movie went on to screen and premiere at the Toronto International Film Festival. It was bought by IFC Films and had a theatrical release just 2 months ago, August of 2023, and it's now available to stream online. So it's pretty amazing that worked out. But since then, I've done 3 other movies. So I did another one here in Utah. I did one internationally last year in 2022. We filmed in Cape Town, South Africa. And then I just did another movie here in Utah. So I've done 4 films in 2.5 years, and lots more coming. I'm working on a number of other projects that should be getting going in the next year or 2. So very, very exciting and very true. Like if you ever have looked at people and said, man, I want to know how they got that success, whether or not they know the answer, my answer is I decided what the outcome was. I wanted to be a film producer, and then I reverse engineered how to do that. And all of my time and effort and focus went to achieving that outcome. And now I've done 4 movies in 2.5 years after doing 4 seasons of television. All of that after 8 years of trying and failing, because we weren't thinking about the outcome. We were thinking about the art. We were thinking about doing more or better art. And why aren't people picking us? Well, it's because we were thinking about it and going about it the wrong way. You could argue that those 8 years were essential in order for me to get to the point where I could ultimately produce a film, and I think you're right. But everything shifted when I shifted my mindset and started using this outcome-focused craftsman mindset approach. So take that for what it's worth, but I think it's worth a lot. I attribute my entire career and business right now to those 2 things, mindset and outcomes. All right, thanks for listening. Thanks for hearing me ramble a little bit. Hopefully that's helpful, and we'll see you in the next episode.